Morning, everybody. Oh, that's not the view I'm looking for. Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you guys out there at the moment. By the way, if you're sitting out there at the moment and you've yet to jump in and say hello, I can see a few people have said hello and good morning, and that's great. But there are something like 7 or 8 of you out there at the moment. Jump in, say hello, let me know that you are there while I try and get this angle or the view right. There we go. That's a better one. I'm liking that one much better. So for those of you who are new to this, this is our monthly spotlight on a Toolbox member. So once a month, we take one of our Toolbox members and we do a spotlight on them, just find out a little bit more about them. And for our Toolbox members, it gives them a little bit more information about the people who are they're working alongside in the Toolbox. And for you guys who are not yet Toolbox members, not yet, notice how I say that, it gives you an opportunity to see the type of people that are working within the Toolbox and the kind of results that they're getting from their business. Because believe it or not, they are just very much like you, electricians who are working on their business, growing their local business, and having the same kind of issues, problems, things that are happening in their life are happening in your life as well. So this week we have Neil Gault. This month we have Neil Gault. We'll come to Neil in just a few minutes and he'll tell you a little bit about his background and his story. In the meantime, I want to say good morning to Daniel Robinson. Good morning to you. Nigel Rooney, good morning to you. Nice to have you joining us out there. I want to see who else has joined us. James Coleman is out there as well. Gary Pratton has joined us. Good morning to you. Steve Oakey, part of the admin team from the Toolbox, are out there. Paul Slater, nice to see you out there. Sir Stephen Thompson is watching as well. Ballas Bola is out there. Ballas, another long-term member of the Toolbox. Nigel Davis is out there as well. Great to have all you guys out there. Please do jump in, say hello. Let us know that you are actually out there. So we're going to get straight into it, I think, with Neil. I'm going to pull out the first
obvious
thing that I can see. I've obviously got a very young photograph of you.
So it's only about 4-year-old too. Well, is this what happens when you join the Toolbox and ages you?
Yeah, I just realized from the photograph a number of things have changed. You've obviously since lost weight. You've grown into your beard, which is really nice. You've become a lot more dome shaped like me, which suits you really, really well. And you've changed your van signage as well, from what I can remember. If I look at the recent pictures of the van, so yeah, a few differences there. Let me turn off this scrolling banner at the bottom just so that it doesn't keep on irritating me. There we go. That's done. Right, I guess let's get straight into it. Tell us a little bit about Neil. What's the background? So where did you grow up? What were you like at school? Did you enjoy school? Did you have siblings? What's the backstory of Neil?
Well, I grew up in Northern Ireland in a wee seaside town called Donegal, just sort of outside Belfast, a little, County Down. And yeah, went to school. School was fine. Got a big sister and that. She's in sort of England now. And my mum is Scottish, my dad's Northern Irish, and when I was over at visiting relatives in Scotland, that's how I met my wife and ended up in Scotland then. So when I finished school, started my time as an electrician. Had various jobs before that. During school time, I worked in the kitchens, kitchen port and that sort of stuff. And then when left school at 16 and went straight in for a trade. My dad was a joiner and he just said, I just go be a sparky. And he seemed to be making all the money, which was lies. So
it's not the Sparks, it's the heating engineers. They're making all the money.
Oh, aye, it's always somebody else in it though. So it is. And yeah, finished my time, moved to Scotland, and I've been there ever since. So more or less, career-wise, on and off, worked for myself, worked for construction companies, worked offshore on the oil rigs for quite a while. Complex hazardous areas, the oil refineries, which are sort of quite heavy up around here where I live. and then I went to the Middle East on something completely different. Just basically working for the Yanks, for the Americans. And when I came home from it, I set up Gault Electrical Solutions, and I subbed in to a company for a wee bit. Basically, the village that I was working in, or that I live in, they were getting new build houses. So a friend's company was wiring them, so I went and worked there just to sort of ease me back in. Lockdown happened, and then as soon as lockdown kind of kicked in, I just went fully out on my own then, just for the same reason, you know yourself, you're never really going to grow or anything while you're subbing to the other people. It's nice to have that safety net, right enough. Probably the wrong time, probably absolutely the wrong time probably to go out was when everything shut down. But
it's interesting. It's interesting you say that, because a number of people would believe that during lockdown was during that whole COVID fiasco would have been the wrong time to start out on your own or to start a business on your own. And yet we've had a number of Toolbox members who did exactly that, because during the COVID fiasco, they weren't getting subcontracting work. People weren't doing it. And some people got let off, other people got furloughed, and they just used that opportunity to take time and start out their own business. And it's interesting to see that a number of them have actually been quite successful, having started at that period when everybody else was thinking it was no good.
Well, the site's being closed, you know, like for me, obviously I wasn't entitled to furlough, and you're not entitled to grants and everything else. I hadn't been set up long enough for that. So yeah, you had really no other option other than just to go and try and get as much work as you. And you know how it went, like everybody was putting in garden sheds and stuff with their, you know, working from home garden offices and that. And then obviously you still have the more vulnerable people that were needing domestic work done and things like that. So it was still relatively busy. I would say it's probably tailed off more now than what it has during COVID. And you know, there's a lot of uncertainty at the minute between inflation and recession, and just money's a lot tighter, I find, on the domestic side of things. There would be less people, maybe, I would say there'd be less people sort of looking for work done, and more people saying, oh, my sockets have stopped working, can you come and fix them? You know, type of thing, rather than getting 10 down lights put in their living room or something like that, you know.
Yeah, we've had a number of different conversations about this in the toolbox at the moment, because I think everybody, you know, you would be a fool to bury your head in the sand and think that things are not getting a little bit quieter, right? But you've also got to be honest and look at the situation and think, we see this throughout history. We see this over and over again. Anybody who's been in business for a little while. So this might be good advice for anybody who's starting out now and thinking to themselves, the shit is hitting the fan and now's the time to get out. But it's not, because if you've been in business for a while, you will see that it's cyclical. There are periods where public uncertainty creeps in, and that can be around wars, elections, bloody pandemics. But you'll see that people will tighten their belt a little bit because of the uncertainty. But then as certainty comes back, things open up again. So for example, right now, at the moment, in reality, we're suffering the tail end of the whole COVID thing, where people are now having to pay back stuff and so on and so forth. So we're suffering that. We've got a war going on in Ukraine. We've got a war going on in Israel. And then to top it all off, we've got a UK general election looming as well. So public uncertainty is at an all-time low. Now, that doesn't mean people are not getting work done. There are still people getting work done, but a lot of people are holding back a little bit. They're being more discerning about where they actually spend their money. And it's a good opportunity then for people to position themselves better, because they're still spending the money. They're just being careful who they're spending it with and what value they're getting for that money.
100%.
And then, and then as things relieve a little bit, like even once the election is over, doesn't matter what way the election goes, that sense of certainty comes back a little bit more, and people will open up and spend a little bit more. Yeah. So these are cyclical things, and it's about understanding how to ride them out. Beautiful thing we were talking about again in the toolbox last week is that if when you're aware of all of this and you establish yourself in your local community as the go-to electrician, yeah, you still get stung with this, but not as badly if you haven't built a reputation. If you're purely depending on subcontracting work, if you're purely depending on word of mouth work, and you're not actually building any kind of goodwill in the community, then when the shit hits the fan, then you suffer. But if you have positioned yourself properly, you'll still have work coming in, and you'll still be able to take over.
100%. So it is like, and as I say, it is tight. There's different things. You have to look at your own overheads and stuff as well. You know, every business has other bits that they can cut back on. Just the same as when you're sort of, when it goes tight in the house, you know, do you need the Sky TV? Do you need whatever? And you just make them sort of allowances too. But as you say, it's all eggs in baskets. If you're relying on one, you're going to get your fingers burnt. You need all that coming in from different bits. You know, it's the same as multiple streams of revenue. You know, it's multiple streams of marketing. It's advertising. You know, so it is the leaflets, it is the website, it is the Facebook, it is posting videos and all the rest of it. And that's all came more from yourself. You know, like when I went to college for 4 years. And then obviously worked in a different environment. Nobody told you how to run a business. You know, you're not told that. And as you say often enough, that you can be the world's best electrician, but if nobody knows that you're there, that phone's no ringing. You know.
Yeah.
So it's all wee things and that, like, because like I'll go to the leaflets, them leaflets that tried and tested and everything else on Kajabi. I've got it here. That's my Sterling one. So it is, you know.
Yeah, I've got the Rogues Gallery behind me. Yeah.
There you go. So it is. So I've got three different leaflets at the minute. They're all exactly the same, apart from the location and the tracking number. And I was trying to do the math yesterday when I was talking to the Gary, sorting out my website. And I reckon over the last sort of 3 to 4 years, since I started doing the leaflets within the toolbox, they've probably brought in about 100 grand.
Yeah.
You know, and it's through the phone ringing. Sometimes you get bigger jobs out of it. Sometimes you get wee jobs out of it. Sometimes folk are phoning you like 6-8 months after they've received the leaflet. Oh, I just put it on my fridge, something and that. The thing is, it works. And the reason why, for me, joined the toolbox was because there was stuff missing. You know, I've not, you know, like there's Gault Electrical. I don't know if you can see it. The G, well, you can see it down in the corner there. The G's a light bulb. No one's ever picked up the phone and fucking hired me because they like my logo. You know what I mean? They're not, oh, he's got a G that looks like a light bulb. Come on, we'll get him. He can work in our house. And that's not it. But they fired me because the leaflets went through the door. You know, and it's everything that it needs there. Keep it handy. It's your electrician. Call Neil Gault. Yeah. And it's just as simple as that. There's no, on the back, I've got my registering body, 5-star, Google, and my company name. That's it. It's just so that they can sort of see who they are. They'll do the donkey work after that. Or I received your leaflet. I Googled you. I seen you on Facebook. I watched one of your videos. I was in the shop and I seen your leaflet again. And I thought we'd just give you a phone. And then I seen you on the wee local page at Facebook. It's all the wee multiple things that you're doing in the background that gets that phone call. Like, and 9 times out of 10, you've got the job as soon as they phone you, because they are looking for somebody. That's the whole reason why they phoned. You know, so all you're doing then is okay, well, I can price that over the phone if it's a minimum charge job. If it's not, if you have to go and have a look at, just turn up. just turn up when you say you'll turn up. It's fucking simple, like, but it's that's all they're looking for. No problem. That's you booked in. That date will not slide. 20% deposit, guarantees the date, and that's you. Away you go. Turn up. Job done. Simple, kinda.
Yeah, it is interesting what you said though, right at the beginning though. Throughout a 4-year apprenticeship or a reskill course, or anywhere you get trained to be an electrician, there's nowhere, and we've said this time and time again, people are probably sick of me saying it, there is nowhere along that route that they teach you how to actually run the business. that they teach you how to get customers. And yet, every tradesman that I've ever spoken to, whether they carry it out long term or not, they have this ambition to be self-employed. You know, every single tradesman, you talk to any apprentice that you can talk to any day, they don't say, oh, I'm doing this so that I can work for this guy for the rest of my life. They'll tell you, I'm doing this because, you know, in 4 years' time, 5 years' time, I want to have my own vans on the road. I want to run my own little firm, so on and so forth. But yet nobody along that route is being trained on how to run a business, how to manage a business, how to get customers. And I think that was the void or the gap that the toolbox actually filled in for people, was to show them that, you know, you can. People put a lot of emphasis on being the best electrician. They think that the better they are, the better they understand the regs, the better skilled they are, they think they're going to get more work. And the unfortunate part about that is I have seen some really good tradesmen, some really good electricians go out of business. I've seen them fail in business because they've focused so much on the skill and not enough on the actual business management and the getting of customers. Because again, like you said earlier, if you don't have customers, you don't have a business. Yeah, so it is as simple as that.
Like, it's not all, you know, the toolbox, for sake, it is what it is. It's a guide, you know what I mean. But it's not the solution to your problems. It's helping you to, you know, you still have to put the work in, you have to put the effort in and all. But it's giving you the tools to do that, you know, to try and be as successful as you can. Because I still struggle from time to time, you know. I'll still, like, I can struggle with cash flow and that, you know. At times I find that's a big killer. And this week is a prime example. At one point it went down to there was about £70 in the business account, and that's all the way back up now as everything comes back in. But you know, sometimes it's just the way things are. A few more things come out than you're expecting, or a payment gets delayed, and that I usually don't have any bad customers where you're chasing folk for weeks and weeks, but I did before, and that all comes down to, one, finding your ideal customer, and two, noticing red flags, reading people a lot better, you know, and stuff. And if they're cagey about things, like if they go, oh, the electrician that we had out is just retired, what, halfway through your fucking job? No chance. You know what I mean? The electrician you've had out is fucked off because you're a nightmare. You know what I mean? And that, so it's being able to be a wee bit more streetwise on that type of thing, and to say no.
Yeah,
you don't have to take every single job, you know. And it's just, you know, having that thing. And I think that's the problem when you first start out. You try and say yes to everything, and you're obviously too cheap as well, you know. Because I think when I was subbing, it was £20 an hour, and I think I went to 25 or something when I was working for myself, thinking, oh, well, that's an extra £5 an hour. I mean, you know, and then you do that minimum charge calculator, and you're thinking, I'm fucking undercharging here, baby, 20 quid. So, you know, and then you're wondering how you're not making money, how you're, you know, busy fool, as they say. You're running about and you're doing all the MRs, and you don't seem to be getting ahead of yourself. And it's because you don't know what your outgoings are. You don't know what the minimum that you should be charging, and that. And as I say, that's Toolbox. That's what it done for me there. Like,
it's a good opportunity actually now to ask the people who are out there, people watching, what are they charging as a minimum charge? Because, but just going back to what you were saying, a lot of people are working day to day, charging based on, that's what I think I should be charging at. It should be something around that, without actually digging into and working out what it costs them to go to work. And there is a cost to going. There's a cost to going out every day, and people are going out there, and we still know that there are people charging £18, £25 an hour, and they think because they're busy that they're doing well. So it's a very difficult one to try and get people to understand that, believe it or not, if you charge more and work less, you can actually be better off. But
I had this conversation with one of my sort of friend, work colleague type thing, one of the other sparks in the wholesaler, basically. I had this conversation with him on Wednesday or Thursday. And it was exactly the same thing. He was like, how you doing? And I was like, all right. I said, I wouldn't say I'm doing great. I said, it's a wee bit quiet, you know, and that, because Sparky's a lot of the time always, we're busy. And you're like, you can't be, mate, because nobody else is. You know, so there's the first lie told. But some folk you can have an honest conversation with, and that's what you're having. And he was basically saying, he goes, I seem to be busy, but I don't seem to be making an awful lot. And I was like, well, what are you charging? And he was 35 or something. I said, you need to double that at least. Like I said, you can't, you know, you're obviously, if you're struggling to make a profit, you're probably working for a loss, you know, and you have to double that up and stuff. And he was like, well, such and such, they charge 40 and that. And I was like, that's your problem. I said, you're too worried about what everybody else is doing, and I can only charge this much because they're charging that much. I said, forget about them. They're not paying your bills, you know, and that. So don't worry about what they're doing. And it's all mindset. So it is. And again, that's what the toolbox, it helps focus that mindset. It's just forget about the other person. It's all, as you say, it's about positioning, and then you can charge within reason exactly what your worth is, what you want. And he can easily put that up. And I said, my minimum charge is £85. That's my minimum charge. If somebody phones for a light switch, it's £85. If somebody phones to put 4 lights up, it's £85 because you're still making that within that hour.
Yeah.
Sometimes not folk will say, well, I'm not paying £85 for a light switch, which is fair enough. You can understand that. But for me to go and travel the 5 miles to go and put that in, that you're still an hour down, and that to whatever you're doing time wise.
The interesting thing about that is in our trade specifically, there are people out there who will look at you charging £85 as a minimum charge and say, now these are people in the trade, not customers, who will say that's too much, you're ripping people off.
Yeah.
But these are the same people. These are the same people who will be saying, I can't make any money.
Yeah. And you see them, this is now 5 years, coming up to 5 years that I've been in business, and you see folk popping up throughout different trades, and then you see them disappearing pretty quick too. It was too hard, too much chasing money and all the rest of it. You're like, you're not doing it right, you know, you're not positioning yourself right. It's not to say that I know better or anything like that there, but you know, it's because they're not looking to sort of better their business. They're just thinking, right, well, if I charge that there, that's all I can charge, that's it. And a lot of folk can think like, I know best. You know what I mean? And you're like, well, quite clearly you don't, or else you would be making money. And it's the same. It's the whole reason why I joined the Toolbox, as I said to you earlier. There was something missing, and I needed that bit of guidance and that bit of help. And I just go, right, well, you know, I'll go back to the leaflet again, and you say, this has been tried and tested. Like, you just didn't pluck that out of thin air. You know what I mean? That was multiple failures till you found what actually worked. So who am I to try and fucking change that? You know what I mean? Just relax and go with the flow. But you know, just go with it and say, right, okay, you pay your X amount, your monthly fee or whatever, and that there's all the wealthy information that's meant to be tried. Just try it and see. Like online, you get them leaflets. You get like 10,000 for 90 quid. You know, it's one job, and I reckon my outlay in them's probably been about $6,000 between buying them and getting them delivered. I have a friend of the family that delivers the leaflets for 60 quid per 600. And it was per 1,000, but we dropped it down to 600 just because you can do them in 200 batches. And I was getting that much of a return on them. It was well worth it, like, you know.
It's important to realize as well, though, it's not literally just the leaflet, it's the strategy and everything that goes behind it. And that's the very same when we talk about the charging and the minimum charging. It's not that anybody can just rock up and say, it's £85 an hour or £95 an hour, or in Steve's case where he says it's 110 as a minimum charge. it's not just a case of rocking up and saying that. There's a strategy behind it, and you have to position yourself correctly for these things to actually work as well. I'm curious with this comment. We've got a comment here from James Bell. Not all jobs are the same. Minor domestic works can be done by a 5-week wonder, so you're going to be competing on price more. James, I would challenge that completely. Number one, I don't believe there's any such thing as a 5-week wonder. I know it's a myth within our industry that is the case. I do know that there are some idiots in the industry. I get that, and they come from all walks of life in the industry, whether they're apprentice served, whether they're college born, whether they're inverted comma 5-week wonder. There are idiots in the industry who will underprice and undercharge, and that doesn't matter. But let's go back in history. Before our inverted commas 5-week wonders, people were blaming Polish immigrants. People were blaming Irish immigrants. People were blaming, everybody else is taking our work. Everybody else is undercutting us. I'm sorry, James. That's bull. That's an excuse. You can position yourself to be valued more than somebody else if you put the effort and the work into to do it. We've proven this time and time and time again in the industry. Or you can fall into the trap that other people fall into, which decrease the value. And that is, you think to yourself, because he's charging that, I have to charge less. And then the next person charges less, and then the next person charges less. And now suddenly you're in this freaking race to the bottom. But what you're actually doing is you're educating the customer to make you compete on price.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. So a really good example of that are these lead generating sites. I'm not going to start naming names because I could get quite worked up about this, but these lead generating sites, the ones you either pay per lead or you pay a subscription and they send you leads. All they do, I'm not saying, all they do is teach you and the customer to compete on price. They put you up against one another. So that they sell those leads to 4, 5, 6 other electricians, and everybody's going out going, well, if I'm cheaper than the next guy, I'm going to get the job. If I'm cheaper than the next guy, I'm going to get the job. So then the customer starts going, well, I can get it cheaper. And they commoditize. They treat you like, we talked about this the other day in the training in the toolbox, they treat you like a bag of sugar. You can buy a bag of sugar at Tesco's own brand bag of sugar, let's say 50p, or you can buy a brand name, Shukra, for £1.50. Which one are you going to buy? It's freaking sugar. You're going to put a spoonful of it into your tea. I'm going to buy the 50p one all the time. Why? Because they're only a commodity. And what we do in this industry is we allow customers to treat us like a commodity instead of separating ourselves and standing beyond and above the other guys out there who are not as good as or as well trained as or as professional as you are. So, of course, the customer's going to go, well, if I can get it done for £25, but Neil's charging £85, I'm going to go and get it done for £25. Unless, of
what
course,
happens?
Well, unless, of course, yeah, exactly. Unless, of course, Neil makes himself stand out to be different. And Neil has a professional reputation in the local area. And Neil has good YouTube videos and good Facebook content. And he has a good brochure website and so on and so forth, where the person can come along and go, actually, this is a difference. There is a difference between the level of service I'm going to get from the 25 quid guy as there is to the service I'm going to get from the 85. We're really simplifying it here. There's a lot more to it. But it's all about positioning yourself in your local community to be that go-to person.
Yeah, sorry. Time as well. I found like once you secure the job, you're getting, you're charging a premium, but you're getting well paid for it. You take your time and you obviously the job's done to the highest standard that you can do it, but also you're tidying up. You're taking that time to hoover or to brush up or whatever and that, and you're leaving the site nice and clean and tidy, and it's all part of the same thing. Because you have secured that job, you also then need to knock that right out the park so that they know, well, this is what I'm paying him for, and that as well, so that it all kind of comes together. But you'll get the ones that'll say, you say such and such can do it for this price. All right, go get them then. Stop wasting my time. I'll just move on to the next customer that values what I can offer. And that takes a lot to get into that mindset as well, like, you know, and stuff. But it all comes through positioning yourself. It all comes through putting up the content on the local pages. And then I find quite a lot on the local pages that if anybody's looking for an electrician, there's 5 or 6, you know, sometimes over 10 of repeat customers and that actually, oh, Gault Electrical, and you reply to every single one of them as well. And that all, like, that didn't happen overnight, but that all comes through positioning yourself properly. And I'd be brash about it. Like, in my area, I live in the smallest county in Scotland. There's 50,000 people there, and there's about 30 fucking S.P.A.R.K.s, you know, and that. So it's quite congested for a ratio. But I just go straight in. I'll be brash about it. I'm, you know, looking for an electrician. I'm your local electrician, you know. And I've had other Sparkies come up there. I'm local as well. Yes, I never said you weren't, but I'm not interested in you. I'm just going straight in there, and I am your local electrician, fully registered with the NIC. Same thing with the help sheets. I've got 10 million liability, 300,000 public indemnity and stuff. And, you know, and you're leaving that wee sheet with them. So when you've got other people going in for quoting, they'll just walk away. Right, no problem, I'll send that over. And they're like, oh, well, Neil from Gault Electrical left me a wee sheet to read over and everything, and sat and took the time to explain things and all the rest. And again, it's just positioning and that. And once you're there, once you get that,
it's all those extra little things that you can do when you're not charging £25 an hour. Yeah, it's all those little things when you can. The charging helps to position you first of all, but it's the things you can do because you can afford to with that charger. You can afford to spend a little bit more time with that customer. You can afford to put more quality into the work. You can afford to have, as you say, your help sheets and all of the other things that go with it. I'm not going to talk in great detail about all of that because it's outside the toolbox, but all that other stuff that goes with it because you're charging it. And then what you're doing as well is you're building a valuable relationship with that customer. Whereas if you're charging £25 an hour, you're dashing in, you're doing a fucking job, and you're dashing out again. And I would challenge anybody, and I'm going to come back to James's comment. He's expanded on his comment in a second. I'm going to come back to that in a second. But I would challenge anybody who's charging £25 an hour to say, do you follow up with your customers? How often do you follow up with your customers? Do they hear from you regularly? Because all of that is what you're saying now supports you when somebody else goes, does anybody know a good electrician?
Yeah, 100%.
And they're going, yeah, Neil. Why? Because you've carried on building that relationship. What we call in the toolbox, every customer has a lifetime value. And unfortunately, most tradesmen treat those relationships as transactional. And transactional is they get the quote, they win the job, they do the job, end of fucking relationship, they get paid. That's it. Whereas toolboxes formulate a relationship with a customer that goes on and on and on. But let's have a look. James had another comment here, and by the way, guys, please feel free to comment and ask questions. I'm more than happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure Neil will be happy to answer questions as well. But let's have a look and see. James says, I think you're stretching your argument, James. We are not talking about highly technical work, and we're not talking a price differential factor of 2 or 3, but maybe these minor works you're discussing, you will compete on price. James, I will tell you now, there are people within our community. I'll go for 2 in particular. One is on this call at the moment, Steve Oakey, who charges £110 as a minimum charge. So, for example, James, you talk about small works. If you call Steve Oakey to go and pull or to change over a pull cord switch in your bathroom, you will pay him £110 to do that. Full stop. And he gets that work. And he gets that work, no problem. We have another gentleman, some of you will be aware of, a chap called Steve Palmer in Bristol. And Steve charges a minimum charge of £155 minimum charge. So you get a cracked socket in your kitchen and you want that socket replaced in your kitchen. Yeah, there are people in Bristol who will do it for £25. Absolutely. But if you want Steve to do it, he'll charge you £155. And he gets work doing exactly that. All Steve does is small minimum charge jobs. So, James, I'm genuinely not stretching the argument. It is about how you position yourself. It's about how you build your business. It's about the community and the relationship you build with the community. I'll give you another very simple example outside the industry. There are people out there who will buy Casio watches, and there are people out there who will buy Rolex watches. And they're not the same kind of person. That's why within the toolbox, you learn who your ideal customer is, and you work out your ideal customer profile, and you target your ideal customer. The problem is with most tradesmen is they think they have to say yes to every fucking job that comes in, and they feel that they miss out if they say no. So if you say yes to the £20 jobs all the fucking time, you're not leaving any room open for the £120 jobs. You're filling your diary with shit, and you're not. But you don't have to say yes to the £20 job. There are people down the road who will take that £20 job. You don't have to take that.
The other thing too is, see the £20 job. If I do one at £85, they have to do 4 at 20. You know, so they're working 4 hours there for my one.
But not only that, from a marketing perspective, they have to find 4 more jobs.
Correct.
Yeah, they have to find those. You have to find one. So your marketing efforts are, your marketing efforts are less, but they're more strategic. Yeah. Whereas somebody charging 20, in order to get that £80, they've got to find 4 customers.
But but them 3 hours that I'm saving, I could be working on my marketing again.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So it's not that you're not working. It's, you know what I mean. You're charging what you need. And I've going back to the fellow that I was talking to during the week, and I was like, if you double your price to £70 an hour, and you lose half your customers, you're still making the same amount of money. The only difference is that you've got the time, you know, and then you've got the time then to work in your full marketing pro, which is what it's all about, and attract the right customer then in for you, or to go and look for the next job, or to do your paperwork so you're not doing it at night, so you've got more time with the family and everything else. It all works. It just works easier, and all you're doing really is just charging your worth. You're not competing in price, because you should be competing with anybody else. Forget about them. It's all white noise. It's all background noise. Just relax. Forget about them and just do your own thing and push forward. But when you get into that mindset of, oh, he's doing this, so I'll need to do this, you're fucked there. It just doesn't work. And that's the whole reason why I think folk have been joining the Toolbox, and that it's to get out of that, you know, to realize once the, you know, things start to click, oh, hang on a wee minute, you know, do it, everything starts to fall into place a lot easier, where you're not worried about really what your competitors are doing. You know,
let me ask you a question. If James is willing to answer it, and answer it honestly, what is your current minimum charge? What, you know, if you were called out to do a very small job, let's go back to the Steve Aoki example of a pull cord switch. What would be your charge for that pull cord switch, James? So if you're happy to answer that, we'll come back to that in a second. Hayden says, where was it? 5-week wonder here. I don't compete on price. Yeah. Now look, my consensus, my belief is here. If we could within the industry raise and elevate everybody to a minimum charge, 75, 80 pounds an hour, whatever, as a minimum, everybody's life would change. If everybody 100%. In the industry would just go, look, let's level up, let's just bring it all up. But the problem is, it's that mindset of, I've got to compete on price. So if he's charging 70, I'm going to charge 65. If he's charging 65, I'm going to charge 55, and so on and so forth. And it just keeps bringing it down and down and down. If, you know, when a customer walks in, go on.
Sorry, but you need the target, you know your sort of scope of work where you're targeting, you know, the individual jobs, the domestic jobs and all the rest of it, you know, you can charge a premium, you know, but it doesn't always work, obviously, if you're looking to do the price for 50 new builds. You know what I mean? It's that you're going to price yourself out the game right away there, because it's because it's a different contract. It's a different nature or environment type of thing, you know, where the builder's not necessarily looking for the cheapest, but he wouldn't pay toolbox prices for sake of argument for the 50 new builds and that.
Yeah.
And I think folk get stuck in that mindset as well. Well, you know, that plays a part in it when they realise, well, hang on a wee minute, I am working for myself, or I maybe have one or two other electricians, and I want to target a more high worth clientele that things be, then this is where it comes into, you know. But you have to also be able to decide, and the minimum charge isn't gospel either. Like, there's been plenty of times I've agreed the £85 and I've went round to a woman's house and it's a woman in her 90s, you know, and you think, you know, and goes, you know what, actually this is, you know, I can lower that down and different things, but it gives you that baseline that you're always working from, you know, and then after that it's your discretion, you know. You know, once you've won that job. But you know, if they're quite happy to pay the £85 in happy days, but there's just, you know, you have to assess the full lot, like. But fault finding, for sake of argument, I'll charge £85 an hour, and then if it creeps after that hour, I'm £42.50 per half hour. So I'm not charging, if it takes me an hour and 10 minutes, I'm not charging them another 85. But that, again, that's my prerogative, you know, and different things like that.
As long as you're not charging less than it's costing you to go to work. So, for example, 100%. James has responded here. He said he's £75 plus VAT for that small sort of minimum charge job. And then he says it's £40 an hour after that. Now, that's the part I would question. I've got no issue with people who say, let's say my minimum charge is 75 and then I go down to an hourly rate of whatever that is, as long as you have factored everything into that. Because I will tell you now, I did and this is now going back about 2 years, but I did I was working one-on-one with an electrician, and we ran through their minimum charging and we ran through their cash flow. And what we discovered was that they were charging, it was costing them something like £4 a day to go to work, because they hadn't factored in everything. So what you need to do in terms of working out minimum charging, this is why we created the minimum charge calculator, is factor in everything. So that if you are reducing it down to, in James's case here, £40 an hour, that within that £40 an hour, you have covered off everything that you need to be covering off for that hour that cost you to work for that hour. And that includes building in your salary and a portion of profit as well. Because if you're not covering off all of that, and then we did a calculation and we work out that it's actually costing you, let's say, £42 to work for that hour, then you're in a £2 deficit. And you feel that because you've charged a 75 at the first hour, you think you've covered yourself. But now you end up working 6-7 hours extra at 40. Each of those hours is taking you into a £2 deficit. Yeah. So you need to be very aware of what it is it's costing you on an hourly basis to go to work. But the 75, James, looks healthy to me, and you know, I wouldn't see anything wrong with that at all.
Also, hey, so pay the 75 for the first hour, they'll probably pay the 75 for the second. You know, it's just as simple as that. And I just work it because fault finding, for me, on the fault finding side of things, it can drag on slightly and all the rest of it. But half days, full days, like, you know, I try and hit the £500 a day mark. Like, you know, I don't always get it, but that's where I'm aiming for on a full day's work. Like, and the same with now, I may be doing, sometimes I'm doing, if it's one job, it's going to take a full day. That's my labor cost there. But if I'm maybe doing 2 or 3 separate jobs, or if it's minimum charge jobs, different days, and I'm still trying to hit that target. But I also have a minimum that I need to earn through the minimum charge calculator. So I still know exactly what I need to make every single day to pay my salary and to cover my overheads and everything else. A half day rate, I would charge $270, and that half day rate would actually, if I didn't have any other work in the rest of the day, would cover me for what I would need to cover me for, you know. that's the way I work it, and it works. It works for me, you know, and I'm happy enough, and I don't go with the cheapest materials. I'm usually Schneider for my sockets and my switches and that, and I fit Hager and domestic, you know, where RCBO was surgeon. I have everything all set up around that, you know, and stuff. And again, part of the marketing, that's what you're telling the customer as well. Like, but don't fit cheap and thing. I had a fella that during the week for a job that I priced, and he asked me, it was a commercial job, and I knew it was coming because I just put everything all in together. I'll break it down into like there was 6 rooms, so I broke it down into 6 rooms what was going in, but it was an overall price with labour and materials. And then he was like, "What brand's the lights?" And that is, are you able to bring one round and plug it in to make sure that it's bright enough? And I was like, no, what I've done is I've sized the room, and the lighting that's going in there is going to be bright enough for what you actually need. And that I'm not going and bringing a light round to plug it in for you to tell me whether it is or it isn't. It's been calculated properly. And that, but when he got the brand of lights, within about 5 minutes later, it was I can get them cheaper, and I was like, it wasn't so much cheaper, but he goes, he's trying to work it out, you know, between my labor cost and the material cost, and he's good. And the word cheaper, he could get them at £5 cheaper on the internet. And I was like, you probably can, I said, but if you think for a second that I'm sitting trailing through every fucking internet site to find the cheapest light for you, you're wrong. I just go to the wholesalers and eat 26-foot twins, you know, and that's what whatever price they give me, that's what you're getting, basically, like, and stuff. So he went then and goes, well, if I get the material and if I get this and I do that, what actually the best thing to do is you just get another electrician. I am not the electrician that you're looking for, you know. And there was other wee red flags. He asked me if I did finance as well, and I was like, no, I don't. However, the job, if I was successful, was going to be in the end of August. So if you're wanting to pay it up before I've done the work, I'm more than happy to do that, but I'll not be offering you finance. Like, so it's just one of them ones, just chancing the arm a wee bit and getting in. But it's came to the point where you're like, you know what, this isn't worth it. Even though it would have been fairly profitable, sometimes you're better just saying no rather than wasting that time, because there's other jobs will come in.
It's a sense that it would be profitable, but the reality is when you get stung with a few things like this over time, you realize that the headache is not worth it. And what we call, again, not ideal customer. But again, people will say yes to it because they're afraid that they're not going to get the next job, or they're afraid that nothing else is going to come through the door. And I think we know the reality is different when you start positioning yourself a little bit better as well.
Yeah, it's all about consistency, isn't it? You know, like my alarm goes off every morning at 5 o'clock, and I consistently hit the snooze till 6. but every morning it still rings. You know what I mean? But no, but it's all about positioning.
Let's get back to you for a bit. By the way, I like Erez's analogy here about an ideal customer. Oh, why won't it come up on screen? There it is. Ideal customer. It's like hunting. You choose the best there. You don't bomb the whole forest. so you're not looking for everybody. You just want the ideal customer. And an ideal customer for you is going to be different to an ideal customer for me. And an ideal customer for James is going to be different to an ideal customer for Justin, and so on and so forth. We each, and this is why I never feared competition on the tools, is because nobody is going to want my ideal customer. When you really work out who your ideal customer is and the ideal kind of work that you want to be doing, and again, it's difficult to try and get that all across in just a short presentation like this. But I think people within the Toolbox community get it; they understand it, and that's why many of them collaborate rather than compete, and many of them pass work amongst one another, because there will always be somebody who's right for the job. It just might not be me.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. For me, like when I'm doing the Facebook advertising and all that, I cut everybody out under 30. You know, there isn't really many folk there under 30 that do fall into my ideal customer criteria. And I don't think it's done me any harm. You know, I still keep like my TikTok, I keep that up and that, and it's more aimed at under 30s and type of thing. And there, to me, you're sort of playing a long game there where, oh, I've seen you on TikTok, so hopefully by the time they come round and able to afford a house or get a house or whatever, they go, so I know an electrician from blah, 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 you know. But for advertising wise, through Facebook and that, I just cut that sector right out. They'll still see me. They'll still see me on the local pages, and they'll still get a leaflet through their mother's door and all the rest of it and that. Like, but again,
it's understanding where your ideal customer is. I've just from James here. I've got Facebook update. Missed the last two minutes. And then he asked, can I repeat? James, I'm not, because I wouldn't know where to begin what you missed out on and what you lost. There's a delay between the time your message comes through and when we've been saying what we've been saying. But what I will say is that this is recorded. It's available for you. You can go back. If you know where you dropped out, you can go back and re-watch when you're done. It'll be on YouTube and it will be in the on the Facebook page. So you can go back over it and have a look if you wish. Let's get back to Neil and some lighter-hearted questions. Neil, as an apprentice, who did you serve your apprenticeship with?
I served my apprenticeship up in Belfast, so I started with a company to start with. Oh, there I am. I see I've put weight on there. That was last week. I started my apprenticeship in Belfast with a company called McDavid's over in East Belfast, and they kind of they did a lot of commercial work and stuff, so picked up quite a bit there. But I left sort of halfway through, well, my first year, at the end of my first year, I left them and I went and worked with another guy who his apprentice was in my class. The two of us sat together, and I was having a wee bit of a hard time at McDavid's for different reasons I'll not go into here, but they were just pissing me right off, basically. So I've managed to get myself set up with another firm. But the firm that I finished my time with, AJ Services, they were East Belfast as well. It was just him and me and the other apprentice. And he used to say, like, you know, if anybody asks, use to your electricians. You know, he did. And he just left you and you just did your job. But you learned a lot, and there was a lot of fault finding there and some of the stuff like contactors and different. You were getting a wider sort of scope of work. And it gave us quite a good knowledge, because as for housing, you know, once you wire a house, you wire a house. It's relatively straightforward and that. But when we were working we worked in Methodist College in Belfast and you know, different bigger places that were sort of the life expectancy of the installation was kind of at its end. So you were forever fault finding or working with VIR cables and all that sort of nonsense. But yeah, he was good. And he was fair, and I actually really enjoyed working with him. And he actually he put us through our 2391 and our fourth year as well. The way they changed the whole apprenticeship to having to do portfolios with the MVQ level 3, and our third and fourth year portfolio was all in the one sort of file. And we said to the tutor, what happens if you do your fourth year and your third year? And he's like, well, you just need to come back in the first day of your fourth year and get it signed off. It's like, that's fucking exactly what we'll do. So we didn't have to go back to college at night. And that's what we've done. And then the tutor was like, well, I would advise you to do this course, which was the 2391. So yeah, our boss paid for that as well. And back then it was only, I can remember, it was like 80 quid, you know, for it, and so we done a 2391, and then there was the old C course, which was the old design C course thing. We did a bit of that, but I dropped out about halfway through. That was a bit more intense there, but when you're 18 and you know you're to have a baby and all the rest of it, you know, your priorities are slightly different. So, but yeah, that was it. So I got out of my time in 2004, June 2004, and then just moved straight to Scotland to be with the missus. Pretty much been here ever since.
So as a S.P.A.R.K.S then, what's your favourite type of work?
Oh, inspection and testing. Love it.
Really?
Yep. love it. Love a wee ICR and that. Like, I'll just sit and go right through that. I like the QA QC side of things. That's what I like. To be fair, a good chunk of my work is domestic. I fucking hate it.
Right.
I would say I was a domestic electrician through the time until I went out story on my own, and predominantly that's where most of my work was. But I'll not touch a rebar, like, absolutely hate them. I recommend another company for them. So I do, but I expect.
This again is the power of being able to say no, isn't it? It's being able to say, you know, I don't want to do rewires. They're too much hassle for me. You know, somebody will make a living out of it. Somebody will do it. So I'm happy to pass it on. Yeah. It's
things like it works for you too. See, when I'm maybe doing a board change, if we're going to do a board change, I'll test the house first, and I'll go in and I'll go into the roof space and everything and check the wire in there. You know, I'll give it a proper inspection. And I'm aiming to open everything up and all the rest of it. But I'll go in, I'll do an EICR, and I'll maybe go one morning and do it, and then I'll come back a couple of days later or whatever, and I'll do the board change. And the reason for that is I only like doing board changes in the morning, just in case. I don't like doing them in the afternoon in case I've missed something or something isn't going right. Can't get the circuit back on. Mr. Jones is home from his work looking for his dinner, and I've got the sockets off and everything pulled out and everything else. So that's the reason for that. But plenty of times I've went on not plenty, I'll say probably about 4, maybe 5 times. Within the hour, I'm like, I need a rewire here, you know. So you can either listen to me. I'll charge you. I'll bill you for that minimum charge for the hour, and go and phone these guys. I don't do rewires. I'm not trying to get extra money out of you. Just go phone these guys. You need a rewire, or I can carry on. I can put everything in the EICR for you, back it up with photographs, back it up with the regulations, charge you half a day's work, and you still need a fucking rewire.
Yeah.
So it's things like that there. But that's, as I say, that's what I like. I like going and doing it. I like doing the ICRs. I'm not running about getting material. I've got it all set up properly. I've got my templates all in the software and everything and things. So it's just nice and easy, nice and quick doing the paper, and it's a quick turnaround. At the end of the day as well. So sort of thing, right?
But again, it's interesting in terms of ideal customer, ideal kind of work and everything, because there's a huge amount of people who absolutely hate doing EICRs. So it just goes to show, you know, that there's plenty of work out there for everybody if people stay in their lanes and so on and so forth. Listen, we're going to have to wrap it up shortly. So before we do, what has your favorite memory of being a S.P.A.R.K.S been? What was your favorite, the one thing that you can look back on and go, oh, that was nice, that was funny, that was interesting, whatever it is? What's your favorite memory since coming into the industry?
That's a good question there. Like, probably the time out in the Middle East was good. I enjoyed the majority of it. Like, we worked, like, we were in Kuwait, Iraq, Afghanistan, Jordan, UAE. Jordan would have been my favorite country. Like, it was really nice. And you could get out for a pint as well and different things, you know. But yeah, work with, also see when you finish like a big job, if it's a big lighting project or whatever, because you go into folks' houses and you do a board change and you're charging whatever it is, £800 to change the board over, and they don't see anything. You know what I mean? They don't. You know, there's nothing pretty there to look at. So it's not where, at least if you're doing like an LED lighting project and sort of stuff, sort of smart home, they can see it at school, you know, and they've got their wee keypad and they're poking things in and bringing lights on and, you know, setting a bit of ambience up and that, like. So I wouldn't say there's one sort of thing overall, like, just sort of satisfaction in the jobs, you know.
Cool. Okay. Well, I'm going to ask everybody to give you a round of applause. Toolboxers know how to do that. Non-toolboxers, what we do is we hit the likes and the heart button. We just keep smashing those to give Neil a round of applause. It was nice to hear a little bit more about who Neil is and what he's all about. While you guys are doing that, I'm going to do a very quick run through for a promotion for the Toolbox for people who are or may be interested in knowing a little bit more about it. My Electricians Toolbox, that is the community, My Electricians Toolbox, in which we teach the S.P.A.R.K.S Blueprint, which is a 6-step system. It's the only resource of its kind in the UK for electricians, dedicated to electricians. If you want to go and have a look and find out a little bit more about it, you'll get that at www.jdewan.com/toolbox. Inside of the membership area, you have over 600 training lessons on all sorts of information about marketing and business development and local business. We have a private Facebook group community where people are helping one another, not putting one another down, not slagging one another off, as you'll see in some groups, but they're actually helping and supporting one another to grow their business. They're all there for primarily one reason, to grow their business. And then secondary to that, they're actually helping one another to grow their businesses. We do a regular meetup. We do twice a year workshops for the Toolbox. Our next one is, somebody needs to correct me here, across the 9th and 10th of August. And we're doing that in Huddersfield, where we do a deep dive into the training that is the S.P.A.R.K.S Blueprint. We do weekly Q&As, member Q&As for our members, and we do a weekly training, an hour-long training every week as well. So you're not just left to your own devices. There is a lot of activity that goes on behind the scenes. There's lots of templates and downloads and letters and all sorts of things that you can actually download and use in your business. As I said, you can get much more information about it at www.jdewan.com/toolbox. If you're not yet part of the community, we'd love to see you in there. It is a subscription-based model. There's a £97 per month fee, which is nothing compared to the value that you will actually get out of what you do in there. However, having said that, if you find that it's not for you, there is no tie-in. There is no 12-month or 24-month contract. It is literally month by month. And in fact, if after the first month you decide that it's not for you, simply request a refund and you will get it 100%, no problem. I think if you ask any questions in any of the Facebook groups out here, any of the electrical groups out here, I've been doing this for 10 years. I've never run away with anybody's money. I don't think I've ever let down any of the members. I think everybody who's become a part of the community has had something out of it. Some people come and stay for 6 months. Some people come and stay for 10 years. We have people here since the program actually began. So if you think you'd like to give it a shot, visit that link. Like I said, nothing to lose. You get a guaranteed refund after the first month if you decide that's not for you. I think with that said, I am going to bid you all farewell. I'm just scanning down through the comments to see if there's anything that I need to raise, but no, there isn't. Thank you very much for your time, Neil. Appreciate you being here with us. And ladies and gentlemen watching, thank you for your time and your attention. And we will be back again next month with another member spotlight. Take it easy, guys. Cheerio.
So.